The massive alien fleet hung in space like a dark storm cloud, their ships stretching as far as the eye could see. Admiral Kylemore pressed his clawed hands against the viewing window of his flagship, watching the small human station burn in the distance. His yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as another explosion lit up Kepler Station's hull. "Look at them struggle," he hissed to his officers. 50 of our finest warships against one pathetic human outpost. This is almost too easy. The Zephyrian coalition had been planning this attack for months. Humanity had dared to build military stations in what the aliens considered their territory. Today they would teach these upstart humans a lesson they would never forget. Inside Kepler Station, Commander Lee Hyun ducked as sparks flew from the damaged control panels around him. The station shook violently with each enemy blast, and he could hear the groaning of metal as the outer hull began to buckle. His communication officer, Lieutenant Park Ji-won, looked up from her station with fear in her eyes. "Sir, our shields are down to 15%. The enemy is concentrating fire on sections 7 through 12. We can't take much more of this." Lee Hyun studied the tactical display showing their desperate situation. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and the numbers told a story no military commander wanted to see. They had 12 defensive turrets left working out of 40. Their missile reserves were nearly empty. Most importantly, they were facing impossible odds. The Zephyrian ships moved like predators, their sleek hulls reflecting the starlight as they maintained perfect formation. Each enemy vessel was twice the size of anything humanity had ever built, bristling with weapons that could punch through station armor like it was paper. Their energy beams carved glowing lines across Kepler Station's surface, leaving molten metal in their wake. "All personnel to evacuation stations," Lee Hyun announced over the station's communication system. His voice carried through the corridors, where hundreds of humans ran for their lives. "This is not a drill. Repeat, all personnel to evacuation stations immediately." Young Ensign Kim Tae-hyung helped civilians into the escape pods, his hands shaking as another massive explosion rocked the station. Through the small windows, he could see the alien fleet getting closer, their weapons charging for another devastating volley. "Will Earth send help?" asked Dr. Choi Minji, one of the station's researchers, as she climbed into an escape pod with her colleagues. Tae-hyung wanted to give her hope, but he knew the truth. Earth was too far away, and by the time any rescue fleet arrived, Kepler Station would be nothing but floating debris. The Coalition's weapons were unlike anything humans had encountered before. Instead of simple projectiles or basic energy beams, they used quantum disruptors that could tear apart matter at the molecular level. When these weapons hit the station's armor, they didn't just create holes. They made entire sections simply disappear. Admiral Kylemore watched with cruel amusement as the human escape pods began launching from the dying station. "Let them run," he told his crew. "Let them carry word back to Earth about what happens when primitive species challenge their betters." Commander Lee Hyun stayed at his post until the very end, making sure every civilian and non-essential crew member made it to safety. The station's artificial gravity failed, and he found himself floating as emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the smoke-filled command center. "Sir, the last pod has launched," reported his communications officer. "It's time to go." But Lee Hyun shook his head. "Someone needs to document this. Earth needs to know exactly what we're facing." He activated the station's final transmission, recording everything he could about the enemy's weapons, tactics, and ship designs. As the escape pods raced toward Earth carrying the survivors, Admiral Kylemore opened a communication channel that would reach every human settlement in the galaxy. His voice was filled with arrogance and contempt as he delivered his ultimatum. "Humans of Earth, today you have learned the price of defying the Zephyrian coalition. Your pathetic station has fallen, and your people flee like frightened animals. Your crude weapons and backward technology prove that you never deserved a place among the stars. This is your only warning. Surrender now, abandon your colonies, and return to your homeworld. If you refuse, we will destroy every human settlement in the galaxy, starting with Earth itself." The transmission ended, leaving only the crackling of flames and the hiss of escaping atmosphere from Kepler Station's broken hull. The Coalition fleet moved into position around the captured installation, their victory complete. But something the aliens didn't know was that this defeat was about to wake something much more dangerous than they could ever imagine. 3 days had crawled by since Kepler Station became a graveyard floating in space. The Zephyrian coalition fleet had settled into a comfortable routine around their prize, with Admiral Kaelmore already planning the next phase of their conquest. His officers celebrated in the mess halls, sharing stories of their easy victory, and making jokes about human weakness. But Intelligence Officer Veltar couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She spent hours staring at her sensor displays, watching the empty space where Earth's communications should be buzzing with activity. Usually, human space was filled with chatter, civilian broadcasts, merchant ship transmissions, military coordination, signals. Now there was nothing but silence. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered to herself, adjusting her equipment for the 100th time. Even if they're preparing to surrender, there should be some communication. The young Zephyrian officer had studied human behavior patterns for years. Humans were naturally social creatures who loved to talk, argue, and share information constantly. Their communication networks were always active, like a busy marketplace that never slept. This complete silence felt like the calm before a terrible storm. She finally worked up the courage to approach Admiral Kaelmore in his private quarters. The Admiral was enjoying a glass of Zephyrian wine, studying star charts of human colonies he planned to attack next. "Admiral, I need to report something." "Unusual," Veltar said, her voice betraying her nervousness. Kaelmore barely looked up from his charts. What could possibly be unusual about defeated humans hiding in fear? "Sir, Earth has gone completely dark. No civilian broadcasts, no military chatter, absolutely nothing. In my 5 years of monitoring human communications, I've never seen anything like this." The Admiral finally raised his head, annoyed by the interruption. Perhaps they've finally realized the hopelessness of their situation. Fear makes creatures do strange things. But Veltar pressed on. "Sir, with respect, humans don't react to fear by going silent. They react by talking more, arguing, making plans, sending messages to their families. This silence feels planned, organized, like they're hiding something." Meanwhile, in the frozen darkness beyond Pluto, where no alien sensors could reach, something extraordinary was happening. Captain Kim Minho floated in the zero gravity of his ship's bridge, watching displays that hadn't been active for 30 years. The massive foundry ship Prometheus was waking up from its long sleep, and the sound of its awakening engines echoed through the hull like the heartbeat of a giant. Kim Minho was one of only 12 humans who knew about Prometheus and its sister ships. These weren't ordinary vessels. They were floating factories designed to build humanity's most advanced warships in complete secrecy. For decades, they had drifted in the outer darkness, waiting for the day when Earth might need them. "Engineering, report," Kim Minho called out to his small crew. "All systems coming online, Captain," replied Chief Engineer Lee Wanho. "The fabrication bays are powering up, and the raw material processors are running diagnostics. We'll be ready to begin construction within 6 hours." The captain smiled grimly as he thought about the coalition's arrogant admiral. If only Kaelmore knew what was stirring in the depths of space, he might not sleep so peacefully in his captured station. Far away in the asteroid belt, Lieutenant Park Sora monitored a dozen hidden construction yards that had been disguised as mining operations for 20 years. These facilities looked like ordinary asteroid processors from the outside, but inside, they housed the most advanced shipbuilding technology humanity had ever developed. Her communication console lit up with encrypted messages from across the solar system. Each message contained only one word, but that word meant everything. Ready, Construction Yard Alpha 7. Ready, Mining Platform, Delta 12. Ready, Deep Space Foundry, Gamma 3. Ready, Park. Sora felt her heart racing as she compiled the reports. 12 massive construction facilities, all hidden in plain sight, all prepared to begin the largest military buildup in human history. The aliens thought they had defeated humanity's military, but they had only seen the outer defenses, the expendable installations designed to make enemies overconfident. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Admiral Cho Daesung stood in a war room that officially didn't exist. The chamber was carved out of solid rock 2 miles underwater, protected by layers of advanced shielding that made it invisible to any known sensors. Around him, the greatest military minds of humanity worked quietly at their stations, implementing plans that had been developed in absolute secrecy for 50 years. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the solar system in perfect detail. 12 massive shapes were moving through the outer darkness, each one representing a weapon that could change the course of the war. These weren't the small patrol ships and defensive platforms that the Coalition had destroyed. These were humanity's true warships, built in secret and hidden until the moment they were needed most. "All construction facilities report ready status," announced his aide, Commander Nam Ji-hoon. "Deep space monitoring stations confirm no alien sensors in the outer system," added Intelligence Chief Yang Boram. Admiral Cho Dae-sung studied the display for a long moment, thinking about the hundreds of thousands of humans who had died, believing their species was helpless against the alien invasion. Those people would be avenged, but more importantly, their sacrifice had convinced the enemy that humanity was weak and defeated. "Gentlemen and ladies," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's future, "our enemies believe they have won. They think we are a primitive species with crude weapons and simple tactics. Today we begin teaching them how wrong they are." He turned to his communication officer. "Send the activation codes to all deep space assets. Begin Operation Thunderstrike." The war was about to begin in earnest, and the Zephyrian Coalition had no idea what was coming for them. Admiral Kyle Moore felt like the master of the galaxy as he stood in his command center, watching his forces spread across human space like a plague. The victory at Kepler Station had filled him with such confidence that he made a decision that would haunt him forever. Instead of keeping his massive fleet together, he chose to divide his forces to conquer more territory faster. "Send battle. Group Theta to the mining colonies near Jupiter," he ordered with a wave of his clawed hand. "Battle Group Sigma will take the research stations around Saturn. The humans are broken. A few ships at each location will be more than enough." His tactical officer, Commander Zexhai, felt a small worry creep into his mind. "Admiral, shouldn't we keep our main force together? The humans might what?" Kelmore laughed, his sharp teeth gleaming. "Send their cargo ships to fight us? Launch their mining equipment at our hulls? We destroyed their only real military base in 17 minutes. These primitive creatures have nothing left but fear." The Coalition ships spread out across the solar system like hunters tracking wounded prey. Each battle group contained only 8 to 12 vessels, more than enough, they believed, to handle any remaining human resistance. The alien commanders joked over their communication channels about how easy this conquest would be, already planning victory celebrations and dividing up human territory among themselves. But in the depths of space, something was moving toward them that would shatter their arrogance forever. Sensor operator Vel Nash had been staring at his displays for 6 hours straight, his eyes burning from the strain. The emptiness of human space still bothered him, but his superiors had dismissed his concerns. When new contacts finally appeared on his screen, he almost didn't believe what he was seeing. "Admiral," he called out, his voice cracking slightly, "we're detecting approaching contacts from Earth's direction." Kaelmore was enjoying a meal of roasted kavek meat, celebrating another day of easy conquest. He didn't even bother looking up from his plate. More refugees running away, I suppose. How many of their pathetic escape ships this time? 12 contacts, sir, Velnash replied, but his frown deepened as he studied the readings more carefully. Something was very wrong with these signatures. "Admiral, these aren't small vessels. The energy readings are enormous. Each contact is showing power output equal to our largest dreadnoughts." The fork stopped halfway to Kaelmore's mouth. "That's impossible. Humans don't have ships that large. Check your equipment. It must be malfunctioning." Velnash ran 3 different diagnostic scans, his hands shaking as each test confirmed the same impossible readings. "Sir, all systems are functioning normally. These ships are massive and they're moving at speeds that should be impossible for vessels of this size." Other sensor operators around the bridge began confirming the readings from their own stations. The approaching ships weren't just large, they were moving in perfect formation. their energy signatures unlike anything in the Coalition's extensive database of galactic military technology. "Show me," Kaelmore demanded, rushing to the main display screen. The tactical hologram revealed 12 enormous shapes cutting through space like dark angels of death. Each ship was nearly a kilometer long, their hulls sleek and black, designed for one purpose only: war. These weren't the clumsy, converted civilian vessels the Coalition had expected. They were purpose-built warships that radiated power and menace. "Where did they come from?" whispered Commander Zexhai. "Our deep space sensors showed nothing in that direction for weeks." Meanwhile, aboard the lead human vessel, Captain Oh Soo-jin walked calmly across her bridge as her crew made final preparations for battle. The Dreadnought Indomitable was humanity's finest achievement, a ship that had been built in secret over 15 years, incorporating technology that no alien species had ever seen. "Captain, all weapons systems are charged and ready," reported Lieutenant Kang Min-jae from the weapons station. "The kinetic bombardment system is loaded with tungsten rods, and our defensive systems are at full power." Captain Oh Soo-jin had been preparing for this moment her entire career. She had studied every Coalition battle record, analyzed their tactics, and designed countermeasures for their weapons. The aliens thought they understood human warfare because they had seen patrol, ships, and defensive stations. They had no idea what humanity was capable of when they built ships specifically for killing. "Communications, open a channel to all ships in our fleet," she ordered, her voice steady and cold. The faces of 11 other human captains appeared on her screen, men and women who had trained in secret for decades, waiting for the day when they could show the galaxy what humanity really was. "Captains, you know what our people have endured," Oh Soo-jin said, her words carrying the weight of every human life lost to alien aggression. "You know what they did to Kepler Station, to our colonies, to our families. Today, we make them understand the price of underestimating humanity." Captain Lee Jamin of the Dreadnought Vengeance spoke first. "My ship is ready, Captain. Let's show these aliens what human engineering can do." "The Retribution stands ready," added Captain Park Hee-sung, her eyes burning with determination. One by one, the other captains confirmed their readiness. These ships represented the best of human technology and the finest of human warriors. Each vessel carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand starfire. Back on the Coalition flagship, panic was beginning to spread through the crew as they realized the magnitude of their mistake. The human ships were now close enough for detailed scans, and what the sensors revealed made seasoned warriors feel fear for the first time in their lives. "Admiral," Velnash reported, his voice barely above a whisper, "these ships are armed with weapons we don't recognize. The power levels are off our charts." Kaelmore felt his confidence crumbling as he stared at the approaching fleet. His forces were scattered across the solar system, each battle group facing what they thought would be easy targets. But these 12 ships weren't targets, they were predators, and his scattered fleet had become the prey. "Send recall orders to all battle groups," he commanded. But even as he spoke, he knew it was too late. His ships were too far apart, and the human dreadnoughts were moving too fast. The Coalition's fatal mistake was about to cost them everything. The moment the human dreadnoughts emerged from faster-than-light travel, the entire nature of the battle changed forever. Where empty space had existed just seconds before, 12 massive warships suddenly materialized like death itself, stepping out of the shadows. Their black hulls absorbed the starlight, making them look like pieces of the void that had come alive and grown teeth. Captain Oh Soo-jin stood perfectly still on her bridge as the Indomitable's systems completed their transition from FTL to normal space. Around her, her crew worked with the precision of a finely tuned machine, each person knowing exactly what their role would be in the next few minutes. The ship's artificial gravity hummed softly, and the only other sound was the quiet beeping of targeting computers locking onto enemy vessels. "All ships, formation acknowledged," came the calm voice of Captain Kim Doyon from the Dreadnought Defiance. "Weapons hot, shields at maximum. We are ready to engage." The Coalition fleet, which had been lounging around Kepler Station like lazy predators, suddenly found themselves face to face with something they had never encountered before. These weren't the small patrol boats or converted cargo ships they had been fighting. These were warships built by a species that had spent 50 years studying their enemies and designing the perfect weapons to kill them. Admiral Kalemore felt. His blood turned to ice as he stared at the tactical display. The human ships had appeared directly inside his formation, close enough that his sensors could see every detail of their construction. What he saw made no sense according to everything. The Coalition knew about human technology. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their ships were primitive, their weapons were crude. How can they have built something like this?" His sensor operator's hands shook as he read the energy signatures coming from the human fleet. "Admiral, these ships are generating power levels that exceed our own dreadnoughts. Their weapon systems are completely unknown to our database." Captain Osujin opened a communication channel that reached every Coalition ship in the area. Her voice was calm, cold, and carried the promise of absolute destruction. "Coalition fleet, you attacked our station and murdered our people. You called, just primitive, and claimed we didn't belong among the stars. You wanted to see human warfare at its finest." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Observe. The Indomitable's main guns opened fire, and the sound that echoed through space was unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard. Instead of energy, beams or plasma bolts, the human ship launched solid tungsten rods accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic rails. These projectiles moved so fast they became visible as streaks of white-hot metal cutting through the darkness. The first rod struck a Coalition cruiser directly amidships. The alien vessel's shields, which had easily deflected human energy weapons at Kepler Station, might as well have been made of paper. The tungsten projectile punched through the shield, through the armor, and through the entire ship from one side to the other. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the battlefield. "Direct hit on the Zexamaran," reported Lieutenant Kang Min-jae from his weapons station. "Target destroyed. Acquiring next target." Across the human fleet, 11 other dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons that the Coalition had never seen before. Kinetic bombardment systems launched projectiles that moved faster than missiles, but hit harder than bombs. Particle beam weapons sliced through alien hulls like hot knives through butter. And most terrifying of all, the human ships seemed to anticipate every move the Coalition made. Commander Yang Jisoo aboard the Dreadnought Retribution coordinated the tactical network that linked all 12 human ships together. Her voice was steady and professional as she directed the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. "Defiance, target the command ship on bearing 27 Mark 5. Vengeance, take the heavy cruiser attempting to flank us. All ships watch for their quantum disruptors. Our adaptive shielding should handle them, but stay alert." Admiral Kalemore watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically torn apart. Ships that had taken hours to disable Kepler Station were being destroyed in minutes by the human dreadnoughts. His flagship shuddered as tungsten rods slammed into its hull, each impact sending shockwaves through the entire vessel. "Return fire," he screamed at his weapons officer. "Use everything we have." The Coalition ships launched their quantum disruptors, weapons that had easily cut through human defenses just days before. But something impossible happened. The energy beam struck the human ships and simply disappeared, absorbed by shielding technology that adapted to each attack in real time. "Our weapons are having no effect," reported his tactical officer, panic creeping into his voice. "There, shields are adapting to our fire. It's like they knew exactly what we would use against them." The truth was even worse than he imagined. Humanity had spent decades studying Coalition technology, analyzing every weapon and defensive system the aliens used. The dreadnoughts had been built specifically to counter every known alien tactic, their armor designed to stop every Coalition weapon, their shields programmed to adapt to any energy frequency. Captain Lee Jamin of the Vengeance smiled grimly as his ship's weapons found another target. "Coalition cruiser, attempting to retreat. Permission to pursue?" "Granted," Captain Osujin replied. "No survivors, no witnesses. They wanted to see what happens when you underestimate humanity." The human dreadnoughts moved through the Coalition formation like wolves among sheep. Their weapons never missed, their shields never failed, and their tactics were flawless. Each ship fought with the precision of a computer, but the determination of warriors defending their home. In less than 20 minutes, the mighty coalition, fleet that had conquered Kepler Station, was reduced to burning wreckage floating in space. Admiral Kalamore's flagship, once the pride of the Zephyrian military, now drifted powerless with half its hull torn away. "Admiral," his communications officer gasped through the smoke filling the bridge. "The humans are demanding our surrender." Kalamore looked at the tactical display one last time. Of his 50 ships, only 6 remained functional, and they were all heavily damaged. The 12 human dreadnoughts floated among the wreckage like dark angels of death, their weapons still charged and ready. For the first time in his military career, the proud coalition admiral understood what it meant to be completely, utterly defeated by a superior force. The humans hadn't just won. They had demonstrated that everything the coalition thought they knew about human warfare was wrong. The age of alien dominance in the galaxy was over. 17 minutes. That was all it took for the mighty Zephyrian coalition fleet to be reduced to burning wreckage floating in the darkness of space. Ships that had terrorized dozens of worlds, vessels that had never known defeat, now drifted powerless among the debris of their own arrogance. Admiral Kylemore clung to his command chair as his flagship listed dangerously to one side. The bridge was filled with smoke and the acrid smell of burned electronics. Half his crew lay motionless at their stations, and the other half struggled to keep basic life support running. Through the shattered viewing window, he could see the sleek black shapes of the human dreadnoughts moving silently among the wreckage like sharks after a feeding frenzy. "Structural integrity failing," gasped his engineering officer, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. "We're losing atmosphere on decks 7 through 12, emergency power only." The proud alien admiral who had boasted about human weakness just hours before now faced the most humiliating defeat in coalition history. His sensors showed the devastating truth. Of his 50 warships, only 6 remained functional, and even those were badly damaged. The humans had destroyed his entire fleet with just 12 ships. "I don't understand," he whispered to himself, staring at the tactical display. "How could we have been so wrong about them?" His communications officer, struggling to keep their damaged systems online, suddenly looked up with fear in her eyes. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the human flagship. They're demanding we acknowledge their signal." The main screen flickered to life, and Captain Oh Sujin's face appeared. Even through the static and interference, her expression was calm and controlled, the face of someone who had just accomplished exactly what she had planned to do. Behind her, the bridge of the Indomitable hummed with quiet efficiency, showing no signs of the battle they had just fought. "Admiral Kalemore," she said, her voice carrying across space with absolute authority, "you will order your remaining ships to power down their weapons and surrender immediately. Any attempt to continue fighting will result in your complete destruction." Kalemore wanted to rage, to curse, to demand explanations, but the words caught in his throat. Finally, he managed to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "How? Your technology was primitive, your ships were weak. We studied your military capabilities for years." Captain Oh Sujin's expression didn't change, but there was something almost like pity in her eyes. "No, Admiral, you studied what we wanted you to see. Every battle you witnessed, every human ship you destroyed, every easy victory you celebrated, it was all carefully planned to make you believe we were helpless." The terrible truth hit Kylemore like a physical blow. The patrol ships that ran from your forces, the defensive stations that fell so easily, the colonies that surrendered without fighting, all part of a strategy that took 50 years to complete, Captain Oh Sujin confirmed. "We knew that eventually some alien species would try to conquer us, so we prepared. We built these ships in secret, trained our crews in hidden facilities, and made sure you never saw our real military capabilities until it was too late." As if to emphasize her point, Kylemore's sensors suddenly detected massive energy signatures appearing throughout the solar system. New fleets of human warships were emerging from hiding places that had concealed them for decades. Behind asteroids, inside nebula clouds, even disguised as space debris, hundreds of human vessels revealed themselves. His tactical officer, barely conscious at his station, managed to croak out a report. "Admiral, we're detecting human ships everywhere. Battleships, carriers, destroyer squadrons. They've got an entire fleet hidden in this system." Admiral Cho Dae-sung's weathered face appeared on a second communication channel, speaking from the deep command bunker beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. The old human military leader looked like someone who had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. "Coalition forces, this is Admiral Cho Dae-sung of Earth Defense Command." His voice echoed across all frequencies. "Today marks the end of your expansion into human space and the beginning of a new era in galactic politics." Kylemore listened in stunned silence as the human admiral continued his broadcast. "For too long, alien species have treated humanity as inferior, primitive, unworthy of respect. You invaded our territory, destroyed our installations, and murdered our people because you believed we were weak. Today, you have learned the truth." The camera showed Cho Dae-sung standing before a massive holographic display that revealed the true scope of humanity's hidden military. Shipyards that had operated in secret for decades, fleets that had trained in distant star systems, weapons that incorporated technologies no alien species had ever seen. Our greatest weapon was never our technology, the Admiral said, his words carrying the weight of history. "It was our patience. While you celebrated easy victories, we studied your weaknesses. While you dismissed us as primitive, we built ships designed specifically to defeat you. Most importantly, while you scattered your forces across the galaxy, believing we were broken, we prepared for this moment." The surviving coalition ships began receiving surrender demands from human vessels throughout the system. Captain Kim Doyon of the Defiance, Captain Park Hye-sung of the Retribution, and dozens of other human commanders who had waited decades for this chance to defend their species. Kylemore realized he had no choice. His fleet was destroyed, his forces scattered, and he was surrounded by an enemy he had never truly understood. With shaking hands, he activated his ship's surrender beacon. "All coalition vessels, this is Admiral Kylemore," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Power down weapons and prepare to surrender. The battle is over." As the few surviving alien ships limped away from the battlefield under human escort, word of the coalition's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The news sent shockwaves through every alien government. Humanity wasn't the primitive species they had believed. They were strategic masters who had played a 50-year game of deception and won completely. Trade routes shifted overnight as alien merchants realized they needed to treat humans as equals rather than inferiors. Military alliances crumbled as species that had planned to follow the coalition's example suddenly reconsidered their positions. The entire balance of galactic power changed in a single day. On Earth, in cities around the world, humans looked up at the stars with new confidence. They were no longer the underdogs, no longer the species that other civilizations could push around. They had proven that patience, intelligence, and determination could overcome any odds. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had truly begun, and this time they would expand as equals among the stars.